Xingqiu is dead. Now that's quite a little fun video title. Yes, some people are rushing to a comment section without watching, but let me be blunt. Today's video is really, as the title says, I'm not going to be like, oh, it depends and all that nonsense. Xingqiu is dead, and that's what we'll talk about. So let's just get straight into it. From my perspective, the big problem we currently have in Genshin Impact is the lack of repeatable and long-term endgame combat content. So the implication of this is that because Spiral Abyss Floor 12 is the only real challenge that we have to stress test our units, we find ourselves in a position where we have to choose which units to use, and hence by the fact that the Hydro roster is currently being really crowded out and filled out by lots of different units, there are less compelling reasons to then use Xingqiu. So that is the first argument that I want to make. And you might say, well, listen, that doesn't diminish the fact that Xingqiu's got amazing interruption to resistance, and he applies Hydro with the orbitals and the different waves, and he also like shreds the Hydro resistance. I've heard the Fury Crafter spiel, I've heard the you must run Favonius Swords, and this is the minimum energy recharge requirement, and GC sim calculations tell you C0 Yelan is not as good as C. It's like, when you've been around the block long enough, let's be honest with ourselves as endgame players, you really understand that what's important to you is flexibility, not some spreadsheet or GC sim that does not pertain to reality. And this is my second problem with Xingqiu. So yes, whilst he's got these amazing little things that he can offer, we're now in a situation where, for me at least, when it comes to playing the game, practically, it's all about where you're positioning. It's all about how flexibly and how comfortably I can play with my different units. So not being rotationally locked to using an elemental burst with normal attacks is really refreshing, and that is, for instance, what Farina gives you. You just press a tap E. Now, some people might say, well, that's kind of funny because you just did that exact same thing. You used an elemental burst and normal attack with Kokomi. Yes, but understand, my Kokomi is doing more damage than Xingqiu would if you were in the same position. She's healing, she's generating fanfare stacks, so the two are not really comparable. The flexibilities that I'm getting here with Kokomi are the type of flexibilities that I'm not getting with Xingqiu. That is entirely the point here. So yeah, you might have seen me getting knocked around by enemies and you'd be like, oh, but if you had interruption to resistance, like, no, I don't care. Yes, so what? The pyrolectors hit you or the enemies knock you off your feet. You just get back up and you start clearing the abyss. Even when it comes to stuff like speedrunning, the argument for using someone like Xingqiu is really not there. If I want to put him with his beloved Xiangling and Bennett, I'd use Tartaglia instead and just do the Child International, because that's going to be way faster. Some people might be like, but what about Hu Tao? There you go, double Hydro, Xingqiu, Yelan, Hu Tao, you can't beat that. And it's like, yeah, so what? I mean, there are other units that can speedrun way faster than Hu Tao can, so it's not really as if that's the only option. But if you do enjoy Xingqiu in that very specific team, you go for it. But understand that when it comes to the broader amount of teams and flexibilities available, there is just less reason to use them. Even in Hyper Bloom teams with Yao Yao and Raiden and just e-botting and triggering Hyper Blooms, you don't need Xingqiu, and it's not because of the Hydra, it's just because there are now more flexibilities that are available, and you can thank Farina for all of this. Farina really has opened up so much. For me, I thought initially that someone like Kokomi might have a hard time because, like Xingqiu, she is a role consolidator. She does a lot of things. What I didn't really kind of realize is that the way in which you do that role consolidation when it comes to combat flexibility and playing rotations optimally and having that flexibility when it comes to playing out of rotation or asynchronously, that is still very much alive and kicking with Kokomi. But with someone like Xingqiu, he is just too strict when it comes to those rotations, and that's why I don't find him that compelling. So that's really the reason why I'm knocking him so much in today's video. But what I really want to say is that even though Xingqiu had like a good reign, and he was in the past a very good and solid unit, make no mistake, we're now in an era where the game is opening up, at least from a team building perspective, and all of this insistence that you have to pull Xingqiu, that you have to get him, that you have to build him with a Fav sword, and all of these little things that people keep on touting, that era is really over. The big problem we had in the past was a lack of like a large variety of viable teams and viable game modes to give effect to those teams, which resulted in the meta being very much cornered into a couple of top tier teams and archetypes that you could play. But these days in Genshin you can do so much more, and yes, by that same token there are even more teams you can slot Xingqiu in, but that is what today's argument's all about. Even if there are more teams you can slot him into, the flexibility is being taken away by units specifically such as Farina that just crowd it out. In any case, so that is what I have to say about Xingqiu. It's not that I've got any hate towards him. I've always been a big advocate of the character, especially with Kokomi and Kokomi Taser with Xingqiu. It's such a strong, solid core. But even now, with once again with Farina coming out, that core playstyle with Kokomi is now being overtaken and enhanced with the addition of Farina, making that usability of Xingqiu just less. Just makes them less viable. That's it. Xingqiu is obviously not going away. Some people will still find value. I just think that this overselling of Xingqiu and what he's supposedly doing is exactly the same like with the story with Xiangling. We can see it in the Spiral Abyss usage rates and so on. Both of these units are dropping down in favor of some other units, and this is just to be expected, and hopefully the game can open up more and more, and we can have more and more characters, especially going forward, that can help us just have fun and honestly just get away from all of the old characters. So for me, this is still very much a sign of all the things that's to come. In any case, let me know how much you disagree below in the comment section, and if on the odd chance you do agree, let me know why and whether you think these are the right reasons or whether you've got some other reasons. Right, thanks for watching.